You're tired. Not the kind of tired sleep can fix. It's the soul-worn kind, the ache that comes from holding too much for too long. You've carried hope in one hand and fear in the other, trying to hold it all together, because if you let go even for a moment, it might all fall apart. But what if not letting go is what's keeping you from what's next? What if the miracle is waiting, not at the end of more effort, but in the release you keep postponing? This isn't a call to give up. It's an invitation to surrender, to loosen your grip on what's already slipping through your fingers, to stop managing what God never asked you to carry. I know you've prayed while still trying to plan, trusted while still calculating every possible outcome. You've been faithful, but exhausted, hopeful, but quietly unraveling. And in the middle of it all, a whisper keeps returning. Let go. Not because you've failed, but because you're being prepared. Not because God is silent, but because heaven is moving in silence. And what's coming next, it won't need your stress, only your surrender. So stay close for just a moment longer. There's something here you were meant to hear. Something sacred, gentle, and specific just for you. You won't leave empty-handed. Even now, the shift has already begun. You've been taught to hold on, to be strong, to endure, to push through. That if you just try hard enough, wait long enough, believe deep enough, things will finally move. But what if the movement isn't forward? What if it's downward, into the letting go, into the unclenching, into the sacred art of release? This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because some things you've been gripping weren't meant to last this long. Old dreams, former roles, expired relationships. They once served a purpose, but now they're filling the space God wants to use. You can't pour into a cup that's already full, and you can't receive what's next while you're still managing what was. The fear of letting go is real, but so is the cost of holding on. God is not asking you to throw your life away. He's asking you to open your hands, because what He wants to place there is more than you imagined. There's no shame in needing space, no guilt in admitting something no longer fits. Sometimes, the holiest thing you can do is release what you once prayed to keep. So if something in you feels stretched, tired, or out of place, you're not broken. You're being cleared. Even now, heaven is making room. And what's on its way? It's holy. It's precise. It's for you. Stay in this space with us. Here, we walk slowly and listen deeply. Subscribe to Calm Called, not just for more videos, but for moments like this, when what your soul needs finally meets you. You've asked why. Why the silence? Why the stillness? Why the door that wouldn't open no matter how much faith you pressed against it? And in that space, the enemy whispered, maybe this isn't going to happen for you. Maybe you missed it. Maybe you're not chosen after all. But the silence you felt wasn't absence, it was alignment. The delay wasn't punishment, it was precision. Because when God moves, He doesn't move in panic. He moves in patterns, in rhythm, in perfect time. What feels like nothing happening is often everything happening, just out of view. Like roots under the soil, unseen but unstoppable. Like stars aligning quietly above while you walk in the dark below. There is more motion in heaven's stillness than in all your striving. The waiting was never wasted. The quiet was never empty. It was a holy pause, preparing you for a divine precision. You're not late. You're not left behind. You are right on time for what's right on time for you. So take one breath deeper, one moment slower. Stay with us. Because what comes next, you'll want to hear it with a heart that's finally ready to receive. We often imagine divine destiny as something we run toward, a mountain we climb, a moment we conquer. But what if it's not found in the ascent, but in the emptying? God's greatest movements rarely begin with noise. They begin with surrender, not because He wants you to lose, but because He wants you open. A clenched heart can't receive. A full spirit can't be filled. Even Jesus emptied Himself before the cross, trusting the plan, not the comfort. And maybe, like Him, you're in a season of pouring out. Not because you're being punished, but because you're being positioned. You've let go of people who didn't stay, roles that no longer fit, plans that fell apart, and it hurt deeply. But it was also sacred. Because in every surrender, there is a setup, a rearranging, a realignment so quiet, you almost missed it. But now, your heart is softer, your hands more open, and the voice of God, it's clearer in the quiet. This is the place where He speaks, not in the noise of striving, but in the hush of surrender. Here, you're not asked to do more, just to let Him be more. And what He wants to bring, peace, clarity, divine provision, won't fit in a life crowded by control. You've made space now, and heaven is about to fill it. There's a flow coming, not because you chased it, but because you stopped running. Not because you earned it, but because you finally let go. Even now, divine alignment is unfolding beneath your feet. You don't have to move. Just breathe. Just open. Just wait. Because what God is preparing to pour into your life will not require your hands to build it, only your heart to hold it. It felt like obscurity, like being overlooked while others were chosen, like God was using everyone else for big things except you. You prayed, you prepared, you were available, but the doors didn't open. The spotlight never turned your way. And over time, you wondered if maybe you were invisible to heaven. But friend, you were never forgotten. You were hidden, and there is a difference. Seeds aren't buried to be punished, they're buried to grow. They go underground because what's being formed is too sacred to be seen too soon. And that's been you. Hidden, not because you lacked value, but because your value was too precious to be exposed prematurely. God was shielding you, not sidelining you. He was cultivating depth, not delaying destiny. Sometimes, the most anointed people are the most hidden because their calling requires a level of preparation that the world wouldn't understand. It's not about being seen, it's about being ready. And now the hiding is ending. Not abruptly, not dramatically, but steadily, gracefully, in God's time. Honor doesn't always look like fame. Sometimes it looks like favor in quiet places. 0, 6, like alignment that no one else notices but you feel in your spirit. What's coming isn't about proving your worth. It's about walking in what was already true about you. You don't have to convince anyone. You just have to be faithful to the revealing. Let God unfold it. Let heaven call your name. When it's time, you won't need to fight for your place, it will find you. You were hidden to be honored, and the season of revealing is not something you have to chase. It's already moving toward you. Stay in that posture of peace. Keep showing up with your quiet yes, and watch how heaven honors what was never meant to stay hidden. There are moments in life that don't look like much, but they shift everything. A quiet conversation, a decision to release instead of control, a pause that interrupts the old cycle. Sometimes, the most sacred pivot doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with stillness. And this moment you're in, it may not feel grand, but something unseen is moving. You are standing in the center of divine rearrangement, where heaven is reordering what you thought was settled. And though it may feel like things are falling apart, they're actually falling into place. God doesn't need chaos to create change. He doesn't need drama to deliver destiny. He works in the in-between, in the unnoticed shift, in the decision to trust when it would be easier to control. And this right here is that moment. The pivot, not away from your story, but deeper into it. There's something you've been carrying, a way of thinking, a way of protecting yourself, a narrative you've told yourself for years that no longer fits where you're going. God is turning the page. And to step into what's next, you can't cling to what's already been written. The old chapter brought you here, but it can't carry you forward. This is a pivot from effort to flow, from survival to surrender, from proving to simply being. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to force. The grace for striving is lifting, and a new rhythm is rising. It may feel unfamiliar, even vulnerable, but that's where the pivot becomes power. Because when you shift in alignment with God, even your smallest steps move mountains. You don't have to know everything. You just need to trust what you already feel. The atmosphere has changed. The direction is turning. The invitation is clear. Let this be the moment you stop rehearsing the past and start receiving the present. God isn't late. He's precise. And this, right here, is the pivot that changes everything. It's not always the holding on that's painful. Sometimes, it's the fear of what will happen if we don't. We grip tightly because letting go feels like falling, like losing control, like not knowing what comes next. But here's the quiet truth. Much of what we call control is just fear wearing a mask. And fear, when left unspoken, grows stronger in the dark. So pause, breathe, and ask yourself gently, honestly, what am I afraid will happen if I let this go? Maybe it's the fear of being forgotten, or of not being good enough, or of stepping into a space that feels uncertain and untested. Maybe it's not even about the thing itself, but what it represents. Security, identity, familiarity, all the scaffolding you've built your life upon. But sometimes, God allows those scaffolds to shake, not to harm you, but to rebuild something stronger underneath. You can't disarm fear by ignoring it, but you can disarm it by naming it. And when you name the fear, you remove its power to paralyze you. This is where trust is born, not in pretending you're fearless, but in facing the fear with faith. Because what if the thing you fear never happens? What if letting go doesn't lead to loss, but to breakthrough? To breath, to beauty you couldn't have orchestrated on your own? What if this is the very release that unlocks what you've been praying for? Let your tears fall if they need to. Let your fists loosen. Let your voice whisper, God, I don't know what comes next, but I trust you more than I trust my fear. And when you do, you'll feel it. Not a lightning bolt, but a gentle shift, like a door creaking open in your chest. This is holy ground, the moment where bravery meets surrender, and fear bows to trust. You've tried pushing, planning, perfecting every piece so that it would all finally fall into place. But what if the life you're meant for doesn't come by force, but by flow? There is a rhythm to grace. It doesn't sprint. It doesn't strain. It moves like a river, carving paths not with power, but with persistence. God's will doesn't require your exhaustion. It requires your alignment. And the more you release, the more you'll realize it was never meant to be this hard. Yes, obedience takes courage. Yes, walking by faith requires sacrifice. But striving the anxious, outcome-obsessed energy, that's not God's way. Jesus didn't force open doors. He walked through the ones prepared. He didn't demand his way. He flowed with the will of the Father. And you're invited to the same rhythm. Not one of panic, but of peace. Not one of pressure, but of presence. You don't have to manipulate people, micromanage outcomes, or measure your worth by productivity. That's not faith, that's fear disguised as responsibility. There's a deeper current underneath all your effort, a spirit-led rhythm that carries you, not around the storm but through it, without drowning. To step into this flow, you must stop fighting everything. Stop rehearsing old wounds. Stop running from the unknown. And just float in trust, in surrender, in the knowing that God is better at being God than you are. You were never meant to force what heaven has already prepared. The blessing you chase isn't ahead. It's behind the release. So, if the door won't open, maybe it's because you're not meant to kick it down. You're meant to walk past it, or wait for it, or let it go altogether. This is the way of the Spirit. Gentle nudges, not demands. Quiet alignment, not loud control. Peaceful forward motion, without the push. You'll know you're in the flow when your soul exhales, and you no longer have to fight to feel close to God. You've walked through seasons where everything felt hidden, where the light dimmed, the signs stopped, and heaven felt quiet. And in those places, it's easy to wonder, did I miss it? 0. 3. Did I take the wrong turn? Am I even on the right path anymore? But here's what the dark doesn't want you to remember. Faith doesn't need visibility, it needs trust. And just because you can't see the way, doesn't mean God stopped leading. He's the same God who led the Israelites by cloud and fire. The same God who formed life in the darkness of the womb. The same God who let Jesus remain in the tomb 3 days, before resurrection broke the silence. Darkness is not a sign of distance. It's often the environment of transformation. Think of seeds planted deep in soil. They're not lost. They're becoming. Invisible to the eye, but not to the plan. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've been buried in obscurity, walking by intuition, feeling your way through prayer and silence and hope. But you are not off track. You are on holy ground. Because God doesn't abandon what He starts. He finishes perfectly, and in perfect time. The dark doesn't disqualify you. It prepares you, trains your ears to listen when your eyes can't see, teaches your spirit to trust deeper than circumstance. You are still moving forward, even when it feels like standing still. Heaven is not confused about your location, and the promises over your life have not expired. So tonight or tomorrow, 03, when the quiet feels too heavy and your heart aches for clarity, remember, clarity isn't a requirement for faith. Obedience island. And every step you take in the dark echoes louder in heaven than 1,000 strides in the light. Keep walking, keep breathing, keep trusting. Even now, you're not lost. You're being led, and this darkness, it's not the end. It's the proving ground of your next beginning. Sometimes, the mind takes longer to catch up to what the spirit already knows. You've had moments quiet, fleeting, when peace whispered before your logic interrupted. When something felt right, even if it didn't make sense on paper. That's your spirit recognizing divine alignment. Not emotional hype, not wishful thinking, but a deeper knowing. The kind of knowing that doesn't need a reason because it's rooted in truth. You were created with a spirit attuned to God. Long before doubt, fear, and disappointment distorted the signal, your inner compass could hear Him clearly. And though life has layered on noise, busyness, trauma, pressure, the signal is still there. Beneath it all, the truth still pulses. You still know. And maybe that's why you're here. Not because someone told you to listen, but because your soul already recognized this space as safe. Deep calls to deep, and something in you, something holy and tired and brave, knows that what you're hearing now isn't new. It's familiar. It's home. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need to delay your obedience until it's 100% logical. There comes a moment where trust becomes the most rational response. This is that moment. Not to rush, not to leap blindly, but to trust what's already stirring in your spirit. Because God doesn't only speak to the mind, He speaks to the soul, and the soul knows. Even when the path isn't visible, the peace is undeniable. What if you stopped second-guessing? What if you honored the whisper before it gets drowned out again? What if, for once, you let the yes rise before the doubt enters? You're not imagining this. You're not crazy for wanting more peace, more purpose, more presence. You're remembering what you were created for. And that memory, that spiritual echo, it's calling you back to trust, back to flow, back to God. It didn't make sense before. The closed doors, the delays, the quiet seasons that felt more like punishment than preparation. You tried to connect the dots, but they refused to line up. You prayed for clarity, but what came was silence. Still, you stayed. Still, you hoped. And now slowly, subtly, something is shifting. Not everything is clear, but the fog is lifting, and you can feel it. The alignment of the unseen, the soft sense that heaven was never late, only quiet. This is the moment when the puzzle starts to reveal its picture. When you look back and realize the no protected you, the silence matured you, the wait positioned you. You see how each detour was actually design, how what felt like wandering was, in fact, woven with intention. And suddenly, you're grateful, not just for the blessings, but for the breaking, not just for the victories, but for the valleys that reshaped your vision. This is sacred synthesis, the divine aha, the deep inhale where everything you questioned settles into peace. You didn't miss it. You didn't ruin it. You were never behind. You were always becoming. And now, you're ready to carry what's next, not with anxious striving, but with quiet knowing, with holy confidence, with open hands. Let the clarity soften you. Let the grace surprise you. Let the plan unfold not because you finally figured it out, but because you finally stopped trying to. This is not the end, but it is the moment where all the pieces begin to glow together, in harmony, in purpose. Close your eyes for a moment. Let the noise fade. Let the striving still. There's nothing you need to fix right now. Just be here. 0, 4, just breathe. And let these words settle deep into your spirit. God, for the one listening right now, tired, uncertain, holding on, we ask for the courage to finally release. Not out of defeat, but out of deep trust. Let them know they're not being punished. They're being positioned. This moment of surrender isn't an ending, it's the beginning of something holy. We speak peace over the questions they can't yet answer. We speak clarity into the confusion that's lingered too long. And most of all, we speak rest, not the kind that comes from escape, but the kind that flows from knowing they are held. God, show them that letting go doesn't mean losing. It means making room for joy, for renewal, for divine surprise. They don't need to force it. They don't need to fear it. They only need to trust you. So soften their grip, open their heart, and let your will move freely in the spaces they finally release. Even now, you are rebuilding. Even now, you are restoring. Even now, you are revealing beauty they never imagined. Let this listener, this soul you love, walk forward not with answers, but with anchored trust. Let them feel you closer than their fear. Let them follow the peace, even when the path is unclear. Let them believe again. We declare, they are not behind. They are not too late. They are not forgotten. They are right on time for what heaven has perfectly prepared. In stillness, they are aligned. In surrender, they are ready. And in trust, they will be led. Amen. And if this prayer found you, if this message opened something inside, stay close with us here at Calm Called, because the next whisper of peace may come when you least expect it. But when it does, we want you to be ready to receive it. Subscribe now, not just for more words, but for more moments like this. Quiet, sacred, real,